When Warner Brothers made the decision not to cut their losses and instead double down on Ezra Miller and The Flash, they did so hoping that they would get a return on their investment. That with Michael Keaton's Batman returning, with all this nostalgia bait, with all these things, that they would be breaking DC box office records. Well, unfortunately for them, they are indeed breaking records. It's just not the kind that they wanted. After that disastrous opening weekend, even though some people had predicted up to $140, $150 million opening weekend, they got $55 million at the box office. A pathetic failure for this film with that budget, with all the hype surrounding it. But guess what? It gets worse because its second weekend, despite once again box office predictions coming in saying, well, we think it'll still be top at the box office, that looks like that is no longer the case. And in fact, The Flash might have the worst second weekend drop of any superhero movie in history. The Flash faces historic second weekend drop as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Elemental fight for number one. Yes, Across the Spider-Verse, despite being released weeks ago, looks like it's going to retake the number one spot in a battle with Elemental, which was released last week. The Flash is now projected to dip down below both of those movies. I don't think it's possible to describe what a catastrophic failure this is for Warner Brothers, for DC, and for The Flash. Earlier this week, it looked like Flash would remain number one at the North American box office during its second weekend in theaters. It still would have been a failure. People were predicting about a 60% drop, would have been, around $20 million plus dollars, something like that, $22 million. That looks like that's not in the cards. However, after it took the DCU movie a week to earn what it was supposed to earn during its 4-day opening, estimates have absolutely plummeted. According to Deadline, The Fastest Man Alive is facing a record-breaking 75% drop, the biggest for any superhero movie ever. Now, we have seen some bad drops. We saw 69% from BVS. We saw around the same thing from Thor: Love and Thunder. We saw 70%, a 70% drop for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But now it looks like this is something we've never, ever seen before with The Flash. Coming off its miserable opening, it looks like it might have a 75% drop-off for week 2. As a result, The Flash is now taking aim at a $14 million weekend after a $4.3 million Friday. That's even bigger than Green Lantern's 66% drop in 2011, and by Sunday, the Scarlet Speedster will have earned only $86.3 million in the United States. If you ask why it's being compared to something like Green Lantern, it's because, to be honest, the box office numbers kind of match up with what it opened to versus what that fall is. Again, Flash opened at $55 million. Green Lantern, one of the biggest embarrassing flops we've seen in superhero movies, all the way back in 2011, that debuted to $53 million and had a 66% drop. Now, other things you can make, closer comparisons to recently, Black Adam, right? We talked about these comparisons of Black Adam. I talked about how it looked to be tracking like Black Adam, and if that was the case, it would be another nightmare for DC. When you look at these box office numbers, Black Adam's significantly overperforming The Flash because it had a $67 million opening and had a pretty big fall of 59% drop to $27 million. The Flash looks like it might make half of that second weekend number. It's tough to quantify how pathetic this failure is. This is, Warner Brothers decided to go all in on this. They canceled Batgirl, but they went all in on The Flash. They thought they had something. They paid a bunch of different celebrities to promote this and talk about it like it was the most incredible thing ever. And although I don't think it's the worst thing that DC's put out, I've talked about this before, I don't think it's the worst thing they've put out, certainly, but the culmination of all these effects between Ezra Miller, between James Gunn's announced reboot, between bad CGI, between just bad word of mouth, all of these things have now come together for potentially the biggest failure in DC history when you look at all the hype compared to what it's actually doing. But I guess when it comes to these types of records, The Flash is all over it. This movie is set to lose hundreds of millions of dollars for Warner Brothers, who are already in dire straits as a company. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.